for example, have liked CakeNet on Facebook. Or follow the Huisgenoot page on Facebook and Instagram. And they're collecting that data, and those people who've liked or engaged with that type of content are much more likely now to see Freedom Front Plus adverts. Rise Mzansi, on the other hand, has focused all of its adverts on women between the ages of 27 and 45. So they're spending substantial amounts of money, I think sort of 240,000 at the last count, and all of the adverts that they've put out is targeting women between that age group. So it is allowing political parties to go to segment and go directly to where they feel their votes are. But there's also some dangers in this when, for example, you don't know why you're being micro-targeted, or if the advert is not particularly clear. And this is why Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, as well as Google, following what happened in the 2016 US elections with Donald Trump, where there were outside influencers and outside countries developing campaigns and targeting people, there's been they've basically been forced to create these transparency, these databases that provide transparency on where who is spending money and how they're spending money and how they're trying to target people with these particular adverts.
Let's also, before we even drill into the nitty-gritties of everything that you've just said by way of who's spending money and how they're spending money, let's also unpack the concept of micro-targeting, because a lot of folks might not be familiar with that. They might even not recognize it, if it's popping up on their phones while they're scrolling through their favorite social media sites.
Definitely. So micro-targeting is essentially an ability to target people based on or specific audiences based on your age, location, your interests, or your browsing histories. Now, when we're on social media or any type of digital platforms, all of our digital data is being tracked. And this is being recorded by these different platforms and companies. And advertisers and marketers have access to this data and this database. So they're then able to create adverts based on your very particular interests. So for example, if you're scrolling on your Instagram or Facebook and engaging quite a bit with, say, health-related content because you're wanting to lose weight or get healthier, that data is then accessible to junk companies or those who are selling diet products or health influencers, and they're then able to target you based on your browsing history, based on the content that you've been engaging with. And a lot of the time, you're not necessarily aware of this. You're not so sure why you're seeing particular things, but it's just because your data is being collected and used to target you towards specific behaviors, or to get you to buy a certain product or to like a certain page, etc.
And then I wonder, Kavisha, Uti, does this also offer us any kind of, or rather does this micro-targeting, let me put it this way, does micro-targeting offer any kind of substantial returns for those who are using it as a voter generation tool?
Definitely. I mean, I'm not so sure in South Africa what I think now that there's in this period, we've seen quite a bit of, money being spent on digital advertising. But we've seen examples in the US, in India, in Brazil, in the Philippines, in the UK with the Brexit campaign, etc., is where you can target people based on very particular fears that they may have. So, for example, in the UK during Brexit, there was targeted adverts going towards people who were quite fearful about immigration, about losing their jobs, etc. And these adverts were reaching them without their knowledge that they were being micro-targeted, with an attempt to influence them to behave or vote in a particular way. We also saw Donald Trump's campaign do that in 2016, where there were adverts that were, about containing quite a bit of disinformation, whether about migrants and Muslim people or Hillary Clinton and her connections to the establishment, going towards particular people in swing states who may have have certain views and persuading them to vote in very different ways. And it's not a new it's not a new technique that's being used. In fact, Obama was one of the Obama campaign was one of the first campaigns to use micro targeting on Facebook, where they targeted a number of young people to vote in the 2008 and 2012 elections. And that, basically different people sort of saw how powerful that was and then started to use it for various reasons.
Very interesting, because I also then want to ask you, but I'm looking at the time and I'm fearful because we're going to go into the headline news. Maybe we'll pick it up on the other side of this, because then it brings up the point of misinformation and disinformation, which is something that we spoke about, with another guest a couple of weeks ago. Because if you're saying, for instance, that some people play on the fears of people, perhaps that becomes the easiest way to galvanize support for yourself. If you're playing on the fears of people, it then speaks to how we, as the targeted audience, sort of arm ourselves against that or conscientize ourselves against that. But I want to pick it up on the other side of the headline news. And if you have anything to weigh in on the conversation, of course, we'll welcome you to do so on 086 000 2032, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. That is our WhatsApp line. And of course, let me remind you that we are live streaming, by the way. So if you do want to catch the show live and in Technicolor, you're more than welcome to do so on all of our social media handles at SAFM Radio. Let's try that again, shall we? Let's get into the headline news.
Thank you very much, Bridge, and a very good afternoon. With the news headlines, the George municipality says residents in the area and most parts of the country will observe a moment of silence at just after 2 o'clock this afternoon. Police say they are probing a rape and robbery charge after a 21-year-old woman took an e-hailing taxi in Belleville, Cape Town. And the African Transformation Movement says one of the reasons it wants the Zimbabwean ruling party ZANU-PF barred from observing the May 29 elections is because of its relationship with the ANC. I'll be back with a full news update at 2.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We're in conversation with Kavisha Pillay, who is the founding director of the Campaign on Digital Ethics, and we're talking around the deployment of micro-targeted digital advertisements in particular with this current era of politics. And of course, we've seen how we've ushered in an interesting era within political campaigning. As much as it is exciting, it shows growth, it shows evolution, but it also brings up a lot of things that perhaps you and I need to be aware of when engaging particular platforms. And as we were talking about micro-targeting, and of course it having shown substantial returns in various campaigns internationally, you brought up the point of, for instance, in the Trump campaign, where fear was used as the overriding theme of how these messages were put out there, and the kind of support that they rallied. And that to me sparked a thought about a conversation we had a few weeks ago about misinformation and disinformation. And if we have to double back to the question that you put out there as to who is being targeted and why are they being targeted, these become very important questions for us to ask, especially around the ethics of micro-targeting.
Definitely. So, I think in South Africa as well, during different election campaigns, we've seen various politicians in different political parties playing to the fears of people and appealing to their biases in order to get votes. And there's, I think, a difference between electioneering and false information. I think we need to understand the two. So if you're just campaigning about your party's policies, etc., that's fine. That's allowed. We're a democracy. But if you're using false information in order to appeal to people's biases so that you can persuade them to vote or not vote in a particular way, this is where the problems come through. And in engaging with this meta ad library, there is a group, a lobby group called Pledge South Africa, Pledge to Vote South Africa. And this group has been, spent something about 131,000 Rand on ads in the last 90 days. and targeting, it's sort of micro-targeting anybody who has been engaging with content related to elections or activism or voting or community issues or social change. And a lot of its adverts has a very negative stance on BEE, as well as the national health insurance, which we know are priority policies for the ruling party. And within the sort of like looking at some of the adverts that they have around the NHI, there's some deliberate lies where, basically they're claiming that, that the NHI is basically nationalizing private health insurance, which is factually incorrect. Now, because most people don't understand the complexities of the NHI and what it means, because, there hasn't been much literacy done, health literacy in terms of what the NHI will do. If you don't understand complex policies, you could believe this, and you can then be persuaded to say, actually, the NHI is going to be a bad thing. They come in for my private health care. Public health institutions don't work that well, so I don't want to support any political party that's, all for universal health care. And this is how subtle it can be. And, this pledge to vote South Africa is linked to the Institute for Race Relations. And it's not clear that the IRR, they're not being very forthcoming to say that they're the ones funding this campaign. But when you then have to dig a bit deeper, you then understand, well, okay, these are the lobby groups that are behind it. You can understand a bit more about their politics. But essentially, some of these groups are hiding behind these opaque pages in trying to persuade you to vote or not vote in a particular way, and they're micro-targeting people in ways that political parties aren't necessarily doing so.
And in fact, you highlight, a few, I guess for the interest of this conversation, we'll call them lobbying groups and lobbying platforms that are out there. And as you say, some of them with very opaque information, some of them, quite... what's the word? Just outrightly stating things. You mentioned the likes of our South Africa Constitutional Hill, which is actually not even anywhere close to being associated with the actual Constitutional Hill, Pledge to Vote SA, and We Are the People. And you say there are subtle and not so subtle attempts to persuade you to vote for certain political parties. Now, I wonder, in these instances, is there a way of regulating, this almost indirect lobbying? Because obviously, if we are to track them to some point, they are being funded by somebody or groups of somebodies that have a vested interest in one or the other political party. But is there a way, ethically, is there anything that can be done to safeguard against this? Or because of our forever evolving democracy and freedom of participation and expression, these are just some of the pitfalls that we now have to look forward to as we develop in our political systems?
Yeah, so the influence of money in politics, I think, is something that we have to start grappling with at a much more deeper level, especially after coming from different periods of state capture where you can see how private influences can control your policy or gain access to procurement and tenders, etc. And because of social media and because of digital platforms and the accessibility to this and many people in the electorate having access to this type of technology, there is a need, I believe, and at Code, we believe this, that you have to find ways to regulate this type of spending on digital adverts. So, lobby groups or civil society organizations or influencers have a right to endorse political parties, and that's great. That's part of democracy. But you have to be transparent about it. So you have another group, for example, called We Are the People, who started its Facebook page in very early of 2024, early April of 2024. And in this last month has spent close to 300,000 Rand on adverts. And its adverts, some of them are quite subtle, but you can see its links to Rise Mzansi because it uses the same taglines. It's basically targeting the same people as Rise Mzansi is. But they're not coming, none of these different lobby groups are saying we're attached or we're endorsing this political party, but they have this sort of subtle messaging that the political parties that they are associated with are using. So I do think that there is a need for regulation on this. But, we're also at this time where the president, as of last week, enacted a bill that reduces transparency in political party funding.
Oh.
And we're not going to see the levels of transparency that we've been seeing recently, where you can make these disclosures. So the Political Party Funding Act did, basically made sure that political parties, well, some of them complied with it, disclosed who they were receiving money from, and the IEC would publish these reports. And to an extent, you can then understand why you'd have these lobby groups coming up to then run adverts and campaigns, because these groups wouldn't be subjected to the same rules as the political parties would. But now with these new amendments to the Political Party Funding Act, we are at a moment where there's no requirement for disclosures of where your money is coming from. So it is a problem at the moment in South Africa, where we aren't seeing the levels of transparency that we should be seeing in terms of funding of our politics and the influence and undue influence that it can have on our democracy. But I do think that regulating these spaces is going to be absolutely essential if we want to be able to say that we are holding free and fair elections and that everybody is able to participate in this democracy equally.
And then just by parting shots, I guess there's very little that, myself and the common man on the street can do about being micro-targeted, because there's no said way for us to really protect our digital footprint from being penetrated or infiltrated.
Yes, and but this is why we also just need a lot of digital literacy during this time, because we use these devices. I mean, part of why I wrote this article was because I was being targeted by one of these groups, and I couldn't understand why or what they were asking me to do, because, the messaging was a bit subtle and opaque. But it is, I think incumbent on any one of us that are using digital platforms to become responsible digital citizens in a way. And when you're seeing adverts or you're seeing content that you're not sure about, instead of sharing that or just scrolling, try and engage a bit more. If you're seeing an advert, instead of just, scrolling, try to understand why you're being targeted, what data is being collected about you. Some platforms like TikTok and X do offer you an opportunity to see the data that's being collected on you on their platforms. So just learning about your own digital footprint would be helpful to understand why you're being influenced or persuaded in a certain way. So I think during this time, digital literacy is absolutely essential if we're going to be able to hold off, being micro-targeted by certain people with nefarious reasons.
Absolutely. Kavisha Pillay, we thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. I think a very informative conversation indeed there with Kavisha Pillay, who is a social justice activist and founding director of the Campaign on Digital Ethics. It's just gone 22 at 2 o'clock on The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. Let's take a quick breath. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, right here on SAFM, leading the conversation. Getting into one now with Simone Wright, who is the Talent and DEI Manager and at SAB. And we are looking at this new initiative, the SAB Talent Challenge, which is a beacon of hope offering employment opportunities to young people while providing invaluable exposure to SAB's business operations and culture. This is what they say, and Simone is here to tell us more about it. How are you, Simone?
Hi, Bridget. I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
It's only a pleasure. Okay, let's get into it. So the South African Breweries, SAB, you guys have launched the SAB Talent Challenge. Tell me a bit more about this innovative program.
So South African Breweries obviously launched our new edition of the SAB Talent Challenge, and it's an innovative program which serves to transform recruitment, and we aim to then introduce or bring in graduates from aged 18 to 30. So basically, the Talent Challenge is really designed for us to assess participants' capabilities to solve real complex business problems while upskilling them for the corporate landscape.
So when you say that it aims to transform recruitment, how so?
So it's a little bit of a gamified process, a little bit different and unique to our normal traditional recruitment. So what we want is for applicants or future individuals who want to be part of the organization, we ask them to select the stream or function that is of interest to them. So it could be commercial, supply chain, or technology. And then what's nice about it is that they go through a couple of hurdles or reiterations. We assess their abilities. So this could be cognitive as well as behavioral style. And then they go through a team challenge based on their selection of the three functions that I've called out just now. And then what's really amazing is that they then work together to solve these current challenges that we face within our organization. And then they basically pitch a solution or a proposal to a panel of leaders. So very unique in its process design.
And of course, Simone, you say that, and it sounds, as you've explained, there's a gamified approach to this, almost like a career survivor of sorts. But I wonder, before one even gets to that part of the program, obviously I'm thinking there must be a pre-lead, pre-application process just to vet out everybody, and then you have the cohort of participants.
So yes, I mean, what we want is for everyone who has applied and is expressing an interest in our organization, the first step is an assessment process, which will evaluate them across their skills and sort of work styles before they even enter the work environment. It's almost a preference that how they almost behave. And then we will then put them through based on how they perform in the assessment. Then they'll make it through to the team challenge. And then obviously there's a couple of reiterations after that.
I've always gotten the sense that SAB is the kind of organization that has a very nuanced corporate culture. And I would think that part of this is also to just ensure that there is an alignment to people who enter your organization.
Yeah, so I think that's the main intent of the initiative. So what's nice about it is that they will be able to get an inside view of the current challenges that we face. They'll be able to get some insights on our beer industry, as well as almost come to terms with our company culture, values, what we stand for. And it gives them a little bit of a taste of our organization, so that they can almost see if this is something that they would like to continue, and then obviously put every effort in being successful in it. So the program is unique in the sense that they'll have insight into our business and culture. They'll have opportunity to access senior leaders and network with not only business leaders in across the three functions we've selected, but also graduates that are sitting outside of their normal university or province. So, we really want to just help guide and navigate them and really prepare them for future success.
Let's talk about who's eligible for the program, the SAB Talent Challenge.
So any recent graduates or graduate individuals who are graduating towards the end of this year, we would like them to obviously apply. And then based on how the individuals perform through each challenge, will then make them eligible to go through to the next hurdle. So ultimate goal at the end of the day is for the top teams to basically present their solution. They will then be invited to our head office in Johannesburg, which will give them the privilege of presenting to senior management at SAB, and then the best performing candidates, which is the ultimate goal. There'll then be an opportunity for them to accept a place in one of our coveted graduate programs.
Okay, very interesting. And by way of the best candidates, I mean, obviously, you guys are one of those, organizations where highly sought after in the job space, job market, meaning that there's high competition for y'all. So the spots that then become available throughout this challenge, all things must be capped at some point.
So we'd love to absorb as many candidates as possible. Employment will be obviously all dependent on how they perform through each hurdle, but we do have a capacity to absorb as many as possible. We've got a number of graduate programs and entry-level roles. So exactly, competitive in its nature, and that is aligned to our culture. The best ones will be able to secure a spot. So all the best to those, obviously, who go through it, but there's multiple opportunities, and we really want to attract and absorb as many as possible.
Let's also talk about the finer details, by way of just that initial stage of application. What do the prospective candidates need to have on hand? What kind of tick box sort of exercises do they need to ensure are in place and all those finer details?
So we've designed a little bit of a digital application hub. So I think all candidates who are interested can go check out the new website that has been designed for Talent Challenge. It's talentchallenge.sab.co.za. And first step is obviously application. So it'll ask a couple of detailed or personal information. And like I said, then we would find out, a little bit more about the individuals, what they've studied, what uni they've gone to, how much experience, because we understand some individuals may be ahead and have got a little bit of work experience under their belt. And then also a big thing is around them selecting which challenge they have an interest in. So like I said, the first one is commercial, second one is supply chain, and then the third being a little bit of a techie space, because we understand that that's growing, which is around tech or digital disruption. Once the application is in, then they'll receive a whole bunch of information on the assessment hurdle and then the team challenge. But you have a very simple application process on our website.
All right. And then by way of sort of the geography or geographical location, obviously I'm assuming it is open to participants wherever they are in South Africa.
Correct.
Or not.
No, it is, for sure. You're spot on. We want all youth across all 9 provinces to apply and participate, which is obviously the assessment process is something that can be done on their computer. And then when they get to the team challenge, we do anticipate teams connecting virtually through that specific hurdle where they come together and put their great minds and smarts together to solve that problem. When individuals make it through to the final hurdle, which we anticipate people being outside of Johannesburg, the organization will then support and try to put plans in place for them to come up and have the opportunity to present to those top executives alongside their team members. So exactly, everyone in South Africa is eligible to apply, and then we'll go through the process once we get to the final hurdle.
Yeah, that grand final interview, I'm sure, is going to be where all the pressure lies. And by way of resources, are there any resources that are being made available for participants, or are there any resources that participants need to have beforehand?
So what we've done is, as part of the team challenge, we understand that they've got the means and they're curious enough to figure it out, but we really did want to support them and not just isolate them and make sure that they figure it out by themselves. So what we've done is that teams will be given the opportunity to connect with an SAB mentor throughout the team challenge. So these sessions is an opportunity for them to gain more knowledge or understanding of the specific challenge, extra mentorship to support them in preparation for the grand finale. So we really want to empower them so that they've got the best opportunity to present the best proposal to that specific challenge they're faced with.
Awesome stuff. It sounds like quite the interesting way to find and recruit candidates. And of course, I think even if the candidates don't ultimately, end up by way of permanent employment at SAB, because I'm sure the thousands of entries that you will get will supersede the number of posts that the company and organization might have available at present. But just being part of it will give young people the well-needed skills, I think, and as you said, the insight of knowing how your business works, so that those who do want to double back in a year or two and use the normal chains of applications are far better prepared for what lies ahead.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's exactly it. We really want to make sure everyone who goes through this has a good experience and takes away a little bit of extra knowledge, understanding of what corporate is about. So, it's about upskilling them to the best of their ability for a potential opportunity with us or another organization that they are successful with.
Awesome. Simone Wright, we appreciate the time. And Simone is the Talent and the DEI Manager at SAB. The SAB Talent Challenge is open, and it's going to be open until the 31st of May 2024 for applications. So you can log on to their digital portals, and there you'll get all the necessary information as well as that application kit for you to be able to do the right thing. It is Kids Corner now, which will run us till the top of the hour. And then, of course, your 2 o'clock news is coming up, and we'll come back on the other side of that.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello, my name is Mbalint. Yes, I have experienced getting burnt. The situation was, the kettle was boiling water and it was on the bed, and then I mistakenly put my hand on the bed and the boiled water poured on me. I took care of the burn at home. I treated it by putting toothpaste over the parts that were burnt. I think there should be danger signs for us children.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonaka Malias. I'm 10 years old. I live at Middleland Zone 7. Yes, I do have experience getting burnt by hot water. And yes, I do witness someone else getting burnt also by hot water. The situation was very bad and scaring. Yes, I did take care of the burn at home. Yes, I treated it at home using my urine. As children, I think we can protect ourselves from burns by avoiding to be near hot things. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pota Majid. Yes, I have experienced being burned many times. I was burned by hot water, a hot iron, a hot pot, even hot oil. I took care of these burns at home. My mother had this lotion that heals scars like burns, so she applied it on me and she still does. To protect ourselves from burns, we should stay away from hot things and also be very careful when using them.
I go by the name Zanga. I have experienced getting burnt before. I accidentally touched the hot stove once. I immediately ran cold water over the burn and applied a cool compress. It's important to treat burns by cooling the area and seeking medical help if needed. To protect ourselves, we can be cautious around hot objects and always ask for help from adults.
Hello there! Happy Monday to you all. We trust you had a wonderful weekend. Have you ever experienced a burn? How did you handle it afterwards? Okay, picture this. You're having a great time with your friends, conducting a science experiment, boiling hot water, or you're trying to drink something really hot. And suddenly an accident happens and you end up with a burn injury. It can be a scary situation. but knowing how to respond can make a big difference. For children like yourselves, understanding burn prevention and first aid is very important. Firstly, let's talk about prevention. Simple steps like being careful around hot surfaces, avoiding playing with matches or lighters, and wearing the right protective gear during activities like cooking or science experiments can greatly reduce the risk of burns. Additionally, educating yourself and your friends about fire safety rules and emergency procedures can help you act responsibly in case of a fire-related accident. Secondly, if a burn injury does occur, knowing how to administer first aid promptly is crucial. Immediately after the burn occurs, hold it under cool running water for a maximum of 20 minutes. This method is effective for up to 3 hours after the burn. Gently remove any clothing or jewelry that is not stuck to the burn, being careful not to further damage the skin. In some cases, you need to cut the cloth to remove it. It's important to keep warm while targeting the burn with cool water. If there's an adult nearby, don't do this by yourself. However, for all other burns, it is advisable to seek medical assistance, especially if the burn is deep, even if you don't feel any pain. And if the burn is larger than 3 centimeters or has a blister, or if the burn is in your face, hands, or it affects your throat or airway. By being prepared and knowing what to do, you can lessen the severity of the injury and speed up the healing process. All burns, regardless of their size, can have long-term consequences for us as children. Even minor burns can require ongoing physiotherapy and multiple surgeries depending on their location. When it comes to first aid for burns, the treatment is the same for all burn injuries. Let's take care of ourselves as children and stay away from things that would burn us.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. The National Pulse on SAFM.
The Kathrada Foundation, they've said something like, we are dismayed by the burning of the flag and it represents a symbol of hope. Could you have done this any differently but still achieve the same ends?
They should be dismayed, and indeed our flag is a symbol of hope, and they should wake up to the fact that the ANC has been systematically destroying it.
Their dismay is the DA using the flag.
Excuse me. Where were they when Ace Magashule's supporters in the ANC were burning flags all over Mangaung? I didn't hear a word from them, and those were real flags.
Is there anything now that you'd wish to apologize over regarding the advert and the outcry?
Absolutely not. We're not apologizing for telling South Africans what is going to happen to them.
Helen Zille is the DA Federal Chairperson.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Top stories at 2 o'clock. Technicians injured after a substation explodes in Kimberley, and a moment of silence for the George disaster victims. A very good afternoon. Starting in the Northern Cape, at least 4 electricians at Kimberley's Saul Blaikie municipality have been rushed to hospital after sustaining injuries when a substation exploded. The electricians were allegedly attending to a cable fault at the substation when the explosion occurred. Municipal spokesperson Thabo Mutibi says the Labour Department is currently doing assessments at the substation. The George municipality says residents in the area and most parts of the country will observe a moment of silence shortly. This in honor of the 26 workers who lost their lives when a partially built building collapsed a week ago. The municipality says 55 of the 81 workers have been recovered, 13 are currently in hospital, and 26 others are still unaccounted for. It says they are still experiencing difficulties with obtaining the accurate names for identifying those who died and are still missing. Spokesperson Nadine May has urged families who have lost contact with their loved ones to go to the George Civic Centre. Police say they are probing a rape and robbery charge after a 21-year-old woman took an e-hailing taxi in Belleville in Cape Town. Spokesperson Malcolm Pottier says the alleged victim sat at the back of the vehicle when a second man appeared from the boot with a firearm. He says the woman was allegedly threatened and robbed of her belongings. Bojie says the suspects raped the victim before dropping her off on the side of the road. They also tried to extort money from her family but were unsuccessful. No arrests have yet been made. Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa has lauded the interventions at the Kusile power station in Mpumalanga, which he says have led to the rapid generation of electricity. Eskom's energy availability factor has now breached the 70% mark for the first time in years and is currently standing at 70.78%. The country has seen 47 days without load shedding, and Ramokgopa says this is as a result of consistent performance.
We have been deliberate on how to quickly to return these 3 units, 1, 2 and 3, and as a result of returning them early as per plan, we've gotten the benefit of an additional 2,400 megawatts, and those are contributing to the resolution of this problem. So the point I'm making is that all of these efforts are orchestrated. There is nothing sudden about what you are seeing here today.
Looking at election news now, the African Transformation Movement says one of the reasons it wants the Zimbabwean ruling party ZANU-PF barred from observing the May 29th elections is because of its relationship with the ANC. Party leader Vuyo Zungula has written to the IEC after the ANC invited ZANU-PF to observe the upcoming polls. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has asserted that ZANU-PF won't interfere with the electoral process. ATM spokesperson Zaman John.
The relationship between the two parties has been documented to an extent that in the middle of a global pandemic where no one was moving from one country to the other, there was a strange phenomenon of an airplane of South Africa which chartered members of the ANC was used for private use to go and meet with ZANU-PF. They go to those extents when they want to meet.
And schools are reopening in Kenya today after the start of the term was postponed by severe flooding. Police and transport officials have been deployed to ensure that students get to class safely. They're calling on drivers to be vigilant on roads that have been left in a bad state. The floods have killed more than 250 people across Kenya. Roger Omoe is a teacher in Kisimu in the west.
Just before we closed late March, the compound was already soggy and we've not been back. So I don't know what the situation is, but I have colleagues who've reported that their schools have been submerged. We have seen on the news where some schools have been swept off. Some parents have said they're not going to release their children to go to school because they are not sure of the situation.
The top story at 2, at least 4 electricians at Kimberley's Salt Blakey municipality have been rushed to hospital after sustaining injuries when a substation exploded. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalimeli.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Sensual to me, brown eyes light up my fire. Boy, your smile makes me feel so weak. Looking back where we've been, it's amazing how we turn to be. So ordinary and beautiful, times were hard but we never part. Inseparable, untouchable, remarkable and lovable. Brown sugar, you stole my heart like the earth. And that's total morning sun. sky. Boy mine, beautified, purified, my dandelion, black butterfly. Dreams came true when I'm holding you. I'm for real and you know the deal. Silky touch caressing me, it's like a gentle breeze against my skin. So many misunderstandings we have seen, but my butterfly always flies back to me. Looking back where we've been, it's amazing how we turn to be. So ordinary, beautiful, times were hard, but we never part. Simple, untouchable, remarkable and lovable. Sugar, you stole my heart like the earth that stole the morning sun. Oh yeah, don't you feel it? Touch the sky. Oh yeah, it's so beautiful.
It is TK coming through with Black Butterfly. Gone too soon. You know, some artists you just play, and in the back of your mind, you can't help but wonder if they had a little bit more time to create, and a little bit more time to share their talents and their gifts with us, what would happen, right? And she is one artist. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock on the Full Circle here with myself, Bridget Masinga. We're going to get into a conversation around digital marketing now, but let's take a quick break and then we'll come right back.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are catching up with Digify Africa's Chief Operations Officer, Kagaza Mohari, joining me now. And we're talking digital marketing. And, you know, an argument can be made, yes, that choosing a career path can be daunting because, in part, you're supposed to find something that you love while also factoring in a whole host of different things around sustainability, stability, growth, lifestyle, all these things. And then my producer said to me, a digital marketing career isn't necessarily the dream job for most people, of which I refuted. And I said, we live in 2024. All I hear young people say is, I want to get into digital marketing. For me, my understanding is that they have a very limited understanding of what that entails, or how far and how broad that can be on the back of, social media and content creators and influencers and whatever. And we thought we'd invite Kagaza in and we'd talk more about this with the guys at Digify, because they play in the digital space. And so, and they've got initiatives coming up and they'll tell us more about that. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thanks, Bridget. How are you?
I'm fantastic. What is your perception? Because I'm of the view that I think in recent years, digital marketing in particular has gotten quite good PR domestically and internationally. But I also feel that there's been a very limited understanding of what it is as an industry.
Yeah, so I think as with any industry, there'll be elements of the industry that get a lot more limelight and then sort of the behind the scenes or maybe less sexy parts of it that don't. And I think the same could be said about digital and digital careers in general. Added to that, because of how fast technology keeps changing, there's new careers every day. There's careers that exist now that didn't exist before, you know. So we do find that when a lot of the young people come through, maybe their limited understanding of it is that it's just social media or it's just content. But it's really amazing to be able to see their minds really open up when we expose them to how the boot camp is designed is to expose you to the A to Z of digital marketing, and then you get into your specializations once you've had a broader view of actually what are the careers that are out there, what is possible, what are the different routes even within digital, because it's maybe a traditional career path is very linear, whereas digital and like remote work and everything that's happening now means that career paths aren't linear. You can go from there to there to there and do it all at the same time, or you know. So that's part of the program to really expose you to a lot more. Because I think you are right in that maybe there is a bit of a limited view to the careers that are out there right now.
Just to paint, and it's difficult, I know, but just to paint a bit of a picture. I mean, how broad can we go when we think digital marketing space? And how insular can we be? I mean, I'm thinking influencing and content creation is at the bottom of the barrel.
So we can go very broad, right? So if you think of marketing at the core of it is about someone who has a message to communicate. And that message can come in different forms. So then we can then start to think of, okay, cool, maybe I want to be on podcasting. That's still part of digital. Maybe I want to be a content creator that works on visual or on photography. Then we go deeper into who's doing the writing for it. So copywriting and digital copywriting comes in. Then we start to look at technology. Who's building the technology? Who's designing what the game looks like, if that's what we want to go in. So literally every aspect. So that's how broad it can go. And then really when we go deeper into this game that I'm playing was designed by someone, the script was written by someone had to do the initial drawing of the characters who were on it, you know, and that's what I meant about just the plethora of career paths that one can take when it comes to digital. I won't sort of rank it to say who's bottom of the barrel, but I think at Digify what we also like to do is to look at what are the career paths that have the least barriers to entry so that we get you started. So something like our moderation program that we have, this is fresh graduates who are coming from the program, but because it's about copywriting, it's about sort of editing and really honing in on that particular skill, that has a less barrier to maybe something a lot more in depth like data or like really going into videography or something like that. So we also then look at the ease, you know, to enter the market. And then as you're in there, we really bring home the point of just continuous learning. You keep learning new skills and you can then develop further into the industry.
I've always taken marketing just as a whole, before we even sort of hone in on digital marketing, I've always taken marketing as that career path that really just is the gateway. And it allows you, once you're inside, to then expand your horizons, to sort of interrogate other spaces, and you can take it as far as you want to, and you can use it as a base to then diversify into other things that aren't necessarily marketing per se.
Oh, absolutely. And we see it all the time, you know. And I think the one thing with young people, why I love working with them, is you literally plant a seed in their mind. You know, you just tell them about social media and they will go and take it to the next level. You know, we introduce something like video marketing and now looking at like, you know, the trends in video content being so massive now, they can take a look at that and actually see how they want to grow into it. So because marketing is so multifaceted and has so many different layers to it, you're able to definitely come in on one level and actually learn and keep on moving and then specialize in one thing and then go really in depth into that and, you know, move from maybe creating content for social media to now making movies for the big screen. That's entirely possible.
Right. And I think it speaks to what you were saying about careers not been linear these days. You know, I think in the back of my head, my bestie who is a marketing and linguistics major who started off in the media space, in broadcasting, marketing department, went to on-air broadcasting, left to get into publishing, became an award-winning magazine editor, left to get into social activism, is now like heading up TED and what, New York and all the rest of it.
And every step of the way builds you to like where you're going. So if I think of myself, I studied journalism. I studied out at City Press as a journalist. I moved into agency world, then moved over to, we were called Liberty Africa then in the training space, NPO. Like there's so much that you can do. But when I look back, even at my very first day stepping into a newsroom, some of that stuff that I've learned then is still applicable, still important now. And I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for all of those different trajectories. And that's just the 9 to 5 route. I haven't spoken about my entrepreneurial route, and I think that's part of this new world of working that the program is very much about, trying to get young people to understand that it's not how it used to be. It's not that you go and you learn one thing and you're going to be that thing and you're going to stay at a company for 50 years and then you're going to retire. That's not at all the game. It's really about how to help young people really think of life as just like these different streams that are always on, and you can decide how many of them you want to be on at any given time. But also that's not so easy. So it's also about teaching you the professionalism that it takes for you to be in this. We love remote work, but remote work really needs self-motivated people, self-disciplined people. Otherwise, I could be on the couch all day and like answering 1 or 2 emails, but that's not going to get me very far in my career. So really it's about helping young people understand the world of work has completely changed right now. It's like given us so many opportunities that we can really tap into, but it also requires so much of ourselves. So how do we become that so that we can line ourselves up so that we can thrive in the digital economy?
Absolutely. Let's take a quick pause here. We'll be right back on the other side of this. Our lines are always open on 086 000 2032 or 0614104107 if you want to chime in on any of our conversations and share your perspective with our guests. You are more than welcome to do so. A quick one and then we'll come right back.
Catch the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday at 7 on SABC2. This week, it's all about mastering the mighty Swiss roll. To make things even more challenging, contestants must work together and present both a savory and sweet offering of this classic bake. Who will roll on to the next round of the competition? Find out on the Tastemaster SA. Tuesday evenings at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
The Democratic Alliance is on a mission to rescue South Africa. Together with the Multi-Party Charter for South Africa, we have a real chance to bring in a new government that works. We can turn things around, but we cannot do it without you. In this election, the stakes are simply too high. Every single vote is going to count. A strong DA can rescue South Africa. Join the rescue mission on the 29th of May. Vote DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
Location: London. Unit: the London Serious Crime Unit. The Steering: Luther, a dedicated policeman, an inspired maker of connections, and a whirlwind genius. Dazzling, obsessive, and sometimes dangerous in the violence of his fixations. The Challenge: every episode will see Luther facing a succession of psychological duels between a hunter and the hunted, a predator and the prey. Tune in to Luther, Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 1st of May. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects, All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application closed on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio. SAFM, leading the conversation. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We're talking digital marketing with Kagaza Mohare, who is with Digify Africa, and she is the Chief Operations Officer there. And you guys have partnered up with Meta and the Michael Susan Dell Foundation for the Digify Pro Online program. Ooh, sounds very exciting.
It absolutely is very exciting. It's a boot camp. It happens entirely online, and it is really, like I said, the A to Z of digital marketing. And it really is about helping young people really understand how they can really kickstart being digital entrepreneurs. At first, there used to be a lot of focus on doing the program and then a placements where we're looking for sort of traditional 9-to-5s. But more and more, as with the trends, we really are about equipping young people to become freelancers, to really enter the gig economy, and for them to be able to monetize the skills that they have, which isn't to completely wipe out, traditional jobs, but yeah, it is also about digital entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's going to take, in 2024 and moving forward, right, is the recognizing that the world has changed, and so we need to have solutions that reflect that. Let's meet the demands or the needs where they are at.
Absolutely, and I think so. The program itself, it's 10 years old, and at first it used to be very agency specific, where we were. The origins of it was really looking at the lack of transformation within our ad agency, particularly within digital. But the kinds of modules that we were training then, the kind of placements that we saw then, are very different to where we are now. Which, like I said, a lot more focus on the gig economy, where it's really more than a 9-to-5 sort of formal work that you're looking at. You're looking to be a freelancer who is servicing a number of businesses, which also really helps then with entrepreneurship. We've got a lot more small businesses who are opening up, and they need these skills, they need these services, and really it's about matching the young people with the talent to the businesses and the small businesses that really need the services and can't go to an agency to handle their marketing account, and also the work isn't necessarily that big or that much work. It really can be handled by a skilled young person.
Yeah. Talk to us, Kagaza, about, so from what I understand, the program's broken up into 3 levels, right? And each level focusing on different aspects.
So we have a 3-level part or rollout of the program that we are launching now, and that is merely because when people would apply for Digify Pro in the beginning, it's that they maybe just weren't ready for the level that we were training at, and so we've brought in a foundational level really to be able to just help you understand digital, help you just understand basic digital literacy, an introduction to digital marketing, so that when you then join the 10-week boot camp, so the foundational is done self-paced and you can get through the content that's on there. Then we have the 10-week boot camp, which is slightly more advanced, and we go deeper into digital marketing, SEO, social media marketing, understanding content, understanding data, online advertising. And then the 3rd level is then where we specialize. And what we've also seen is that you're able to make more money if you specialize in one thing, rather than maybe being a generalist. And this is where, after exposing you to the broad range of sort of career paths that you can take, we then look at getting you certified by certain platforms, whether it's Google or it's Meta. But these would be the tools that if you're entering the agency or if you're servicing a client, you would be using these platforms. And you get your platform certification, you're able to specialize in content marketing or in data, or in advertising, and be certified by industry recognized platforms and able to hit the ground running once you have graduated.
Yeah. And am I also understanding correct that because of the 3 levels, perhaps I could opt out after level 3 because I felt like, okay, this is what I required for myself.
Yeah, and it's also definitely in response to that,
level 2,
to how people are learning. It could be that you are in a formal job and you're actually maybe looking to just upskill, or it looks that, or you're wanting to go through the entire from beginning right through to the end. Or maybe you have been doing digital marketing and now you're looking to be certified. Then you can definitely join in from level 3. I think the way people learn right now is also not linear anymore. So it was also about how do we create learning opportunities and learning products that also respond to how the mind works and how learning and how opportunities work right now.
Absolutely. There's a question for you on WhatsApp. Maybe if you slide on some headphones there, whichever ones. Hopefully they are on and the volume is on. And then let's go to WhatsApp.
Wow, you've got Q in there. Hi, Q. This is Tapela. I was part of Digify 5.0 and I come from the hands of Q. I mean, sure, the work that Digify has done is such a great one, especially because some of us are today in PR, in communications and in marketing, and we're able to navigate between the digital marketing and traditional marketing. I think that has uniquely positioned some of us into different roles. And thank you very much for your contribution in my life, specifically Q and Digify. Continue doing great work, and I wish you all the best. Yeah, Tapelo.
Lovely notes to wrap it on. Isn't it wonderful when you hear a success story?
We keep on saying that like the stories from our alumni is actually what keeps us going. There'll be very rough times in business and you keep asking, why are we doing this? And it's stories like that. It's, oh man, hearing Tapelo's voice is really nice after so long. But it is that. It's the impact. It's actually changing young people's lives, actually being able to equip them for them to just take charge. I mean, it's looking very dire there by the youth unemployment stats, so it's really nice to get that affirmation that actually the work that we're doing is changing young people's lives.
I love it.
Thank you
for
so much.
Anybody that's listening to us and now convinced by Tapelo as well, who was a part of the 5.0 cohort, where do we go by way of getting more information?
So our website is digifyafrica.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you'll be able to get all the information about the program that we run, as well as all the other programs that we have available.
Lovely stuff. That was Kagaza Mohari joining us, and she is the Chief Operations Officer at Digify. Tapelo, you made her blush from ear to ear, I tell you. She's beaming with pride this afternoon. Let's get into the headline news, and then we'll come back on the other side of this. And we're looking at Dropper, who are a premier aggregator for courier services in South Africa. They'll tell us more about what all that entails.
A very good afternoon with the news headlines. The Steel and Engineering Industries Federation, SAFSA, and NUMSA have reached a 3-year wage agreement following negotiations which began in February this year. At least 4 electricians at Kimberley's Sol Blaikie municipality have been rushed to hospital after sustaining injuries when a substation exploded. And an independent journalist in China who made a name for herself covering the first COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan, is set to be released from prison. Details of these and other stories at 3.
The Saturday. Time is going while I sit around waiting. What if they never find her? I should never have let her go to school. I should have known better. Catch me, Samson Kumalo, on the Saturday play. You haven't spoken to me since I came back from prison. Why?
Because I have nothing to speak to you about.
Oh, come on, Sego. Aren't you happy that Big Daddy's back? I missed you,
Catch the Saturday play between 9 and 10 p.m. Only on SAFM.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Brent Carlson, what are you busy with these days, and does football still play a part in your life?
Yes, Michael, football is always going to be a part of my life. I'm quite busy. I'm still in the professional sector, helping the current players with not only in the South African Football Players Unit, and then I also do a lot of grassroots and development. My company, Kamaya Sports.
What do you feel about the state of South African football at the moment?
I think the one thing we're lacking is putting bums on the seats. So people, stadiums, watching the game. I think that's where we're lacking a bit. And the players obviously need that support. So I think that's one area we can try and improve, the clubs and the league overall.
Top Sport on SAFM. The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
Even 19. Imagine a 40-year-old dating a 19-year-old.
Yeah, you see, I think, once again, your very first example, 100% agree with you that you have legal recourse against. You can go and get this person arrested because your 15-year-old is legally not able to give consent to have any kind of physical relationship with this person. However, it does get a bit more murky, as I said, once you're talking about your 19-year-old daughter, because at this point in time, they are legally said to be allowed to date anybody. They are legally allowed to do anything. So there you now start having a conversation on principle of it.
Our relationship coach Linda Yende.
Bertha Charuma. Fridays, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, as we get into a conversation now around the courier industry. Dropper is emerged as a premier aggregator for courier services in South Africa, and we've got from business development at Dropper, Tesano Mudau joining us to let us know exactly what that means. Good afternoon to you, Tesano. How are you doing today?
Good, and how are you, Bridget, and the listeners?
We are fantastic. So a whole lot of fancy English for those of us who don't understand the world and the sector. When we say that Dropper is announced as the leading aggregator for courier service companies in South Africa, what does all that entail?
So what that entails is we have developed a platform where we have integrated with different courier companies. So what we're trying to do as a company is give you one account and you are exposed to different courier companies that you can use from the Dropper platform.
Aha, I see. Now, are we talking here about streamlining perhaps how we interface with courier services and courier companies?
Certainly, yes. Previously, for you to send a parcel, you would need to either go to the branch for you to get that parcel delivered. But because we are a technology company, we are saying you are able to send whatever you need to send from the comfort of your home.
Okay. It's that simple.
Very simple.
All right. I mean, this speaks to an interesting way of using also technology, I guess, to streamline the interface for not just companies, but also for end users. And is this something that is, because you guys are saying that it's ensuring customers have access to top tier logistics solutions, is this something that's just sort of at play for the leading courier companies in South Africa, or is it something that will also see the incorporation of smaller players in the industry? Because there are quite a substantial number of smaller courier players in the industry.
So it goes both ways. We are trying to bring the big players to everybody who can access it or who couldn't access it back then. And for the small players, we are saying we are here to lead the way, and you can also integrate with our system to get those offerings.
Yeah. Talk to us about, how the respective players actually opt into this platform.
All right. Initially, when we started, or when we went into courier services, we integrated with Skynet, who was our sole provider for courier services. And recently, we have now added Courier Guy, and we have also added Pudo. We recently also added the integration with Uber.
Okay.
And with that being said, we are saying we can offer you all these services from the drop-up portal or platform.
Yeah, people are always looking, particularly consumers. They're always looking for things that are beneficial and things that are advantageous to them. So over and above the fact that I can then utilize services from the comfort of my home, are there any other features that maybe would be of interest or be of attraction, particularly so for consumers?
Definitely. Let's say, for example, you have an agent parcel, because we offer different services, not just courier. We have on-demand service, meaning if you have something urgent and you need it to be taken to Cape Town, we are able to come and collect that, lodge that parcel into the airport. It gets to the other side, and then there's a driver who then collects it. So we have different services that we're offering, and hence we are saying, from the comfort of your zone or your home, you will be able to utilize those services.
Yeah. And you've got reach to, the most remotest of parts of SA, not just metros. We're not just talking metro centralized here. We're talking all over.
Correct. So with the courier services that we offer, and with the partnership of different companies that we have integrated with, we can service as far as from Messina to Cape Town, all borders, all 9 provinces.
Awesome stuff. Well, listen, thank you for cluing us in on this latest development. That was Tisano Mudau, who is the Business Development Manager of Dropper. So there you go, a platform that has now centralized and streamlined how you sort of interface with diverse courier services as well as on-demand services. If you've utilized it or planning on utilizing it, do give us some feedback. We also like to hear feedback on some of the things that we bring you on the show. It's fast approaching 3 o'clock. We're going to pause here, and then Ashraf is going to let us know what's coming up on the National Pulse today before we come back and wrap things up with a little bit of a feel-good story. We're going to catch up with a PhD graduate, I should say a doctor, who is the first PhD graduate in astrophysics. Right? I know nothing about astro what-whats, so much so that I missed the whole event that happened just a couple of days ago. Was it last week when everyone was looking for the lights in the sky? And I completely missed it all. But yes, we'll catch up with the good doctor around that in just a moment.
With misinformation and disinformation around us all the time, where can we turn to for news and information that is not fake? Radio, of course, your number one trusted source of reliable and truthful news and information. For over 3 decades, we have been a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct, and we pride ourselves as a trusted source of information. Say no to false news and disinformation that circulates online. Radio, keeping it real and fighting fake since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Oh, Ashraf is in the building. They always want to catch us off guard skinnering.
They don't give us a warning,
Nothing. They used to do that with Aldrin and I as well. At least we never really skinnering. We're
no,
just talking about how you're doing. And, glad to hear that the flu is behind you.
Yeah.
It's taken hold of everybody else on this floor, though. It's time for us to mask up, I think, and all the rest of it. How are you doing? How's the weekend?
I'm good. Bro, weekend was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah?
Good.
Relaxed? Chilled?
Well, a bit of shopping, bit of birthday parties, bit of other stuff, bit of watching football, bit of playing paddle. That's like the whole weekend.
Where did you get all the time to do all of that?
Well, over 2 days. So there we are.
Jeez. All right, what's coming up today?
So we've got a leading economist is worried, and I've used my words carefully, he's worried about the possibility of violence before, during, and after you know what.
Yes.
Right? May 29. Egypt joins South Africa's ICJ lawsuit against Israel's attack on Palestine. So that's significant news as well. And then just lots of other things around tech and innovation coming up. But I'll also say this, that's my point that I'll start the show with is about making a decision about how you're going to vote. Not who you're going to vote for, but how you're going to vote. So, yeah.
What does that mean? How am I going to vote?
Like how do you get about deciding? But this is my personal feelings.
How?
You have to you need to sift through. Listen to the show.
Okay. So I have to
why would I
sift
give you
through
the
the
show?
issues.
Right?
Like I have to sift through the issues.
Exactly.
And okay. To inform who I'm going to vote for. Okay, I've engaged
And
my
if I
brain.
told you anything now, then the audience will not listen at 3 o'clock. Now, why would I do that?
They'll listen. That's coming up today with the Ashraf, the National Pulse, 3 until 6 o'clock right here on SAFM.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Alrighty, our last conversation today, we're delving into spaces that, by way of disclaimer, I know very little, nothing, in fact, about. And we joined in conversation by Dr. Carissa Button, who is a PhD graduate and became the first, actually, PhD graduate in astrophysics from the University of Pretoria. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And I guess congratulations to you for, the hard work that has culminated in you being kept and gowned in your reds. I'm sure it was a moment not only of satisfaction, but also somewhat of relief that all the years of academic work have finally paid off.
Yes, indeed it was. Thank you.
Let's talk about the journey. Let's talk about the journey to academic excellence. Astrophysics is a sort of subject matter that a very few number of people are well versed in. It's something that, for the most part, is out of the realm of understanding for most of us. So, what is it about this particular discipline, this particular science, that held your interest?
Yes, so my first interest in astrophysics was more actually in physics more broadly. As I was studying physics in high school, preparing to go to university, I became fascinated with the idea of being able to model the universe, the world that we see around us in a mathematical way, and to be able to use our mathematical expressions, our mathematical understanding to describe the world that we see around us. And then as I studied physics at undergraduate level, I became more aware of what was going on in astrophysics, and particularly in our country, how astronomy and astrophysics were being developed. And I became interested in astrophysics and how studying physical processes that are happening in the distant galaxies can actually help us to understand fundamental physical problems that we haven't fully solved.
Mm. And good doctor, you say that you also sort of became interested in how astronomy had been developed, particularly in South Africa. So then I wonder, where do we fare on a global scale by way of understanding, innovation, and the science behind it all?
I think astronomy in South Africa is quite well respected in the rest of the world. We have some very good telescopes in our country, the optical telescope SALT, as well as the radio telescope Meerkat, and we are hosting the SKA. And alongside of these telescopes, there's been a lot of science development and interest from academics from overseas who've come and helped to train more radio astronomers. And through this process, I think there's been a lot of astronomers who have been trained in South Africa and who are producing good results.
To talk to us about the theme for your thesis. I don't know if you're able to elaborate for us in a way that we would understand.
Well, I can do my best. So the theme of my thesis was to study distant galaxies using a phenomenon called gravitational lensing. So gravitational lensing can be thought of as something similar to what we have when we observe a very small object with a magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of gravitational lensing, it's now a very massive galaxy, and it's the gravitational field around that galaxy that is acting as a magnifying glass. And so we can try and find massive galaxies in the universe that can then magnify galaxies that are lying behind them and are more distant from us.
Mm-hmm.
And then that will allow us to study galaxies that are so far away that they are too faint to be observed with our current instruments.
Mm-hmm.
So the particular focus of my thesis was to look at an approach to find gravitational lenses in data that we will take with the Meerkat and eventually with SKA.
I see. I see, but... And yours definitely sounds like it was sort of an academic journey that places itself prominently in unpacking and understanding immediate as well as future cosmic issues and conversations and topics. And I say this because there was a conversation recently on X that erupted around, how do all these PhD graduates, and somewhat it was condescending, but just your perspective, how do all these PhD graduates and topics lead to solutions and impact for the immediate and the future? And I wonder, as you sort of picked your focus of study, was this something at the back of your mind that you were thinking around?
I think it's a question that has come up repeatedly during my studies. I have pursued physics and astrophysics in particular because I have a desire and a love to just understand the universe as we find it. And I understand that is very theoretical. It's not going to solve any of our day-to-day problems. But there is just beauty in our in the universe around us, and as humans, just to be able to study the universe and to look outside of ourselves is very fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
I think also there is value in studying pure science, as it does eventually give us benefits in technology.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of the late 19th century, all the fundamental research that went into electrodynamics eventually has brought us the technology of electricity and cell phones and computers. That wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't understood the fundamental physics.
Absolutely. So you are to take up a post as a postdoctoral fellow at UP, and you're actually building on an international collaboration between yourself and the University of Oxford and, of course, Western Australia.
Yes. So during my PhD, I had a bit of contact with some of the researchers at Oxford and at Western Australia, and they are very, they're experts in their field and have a lot to offer in terms of guiding me to apply the work that I did in my thesis in broader applications. So as I progress, I would like to build on those collaborations and start applying the work that I've already done into different fields.
Yeah.
Different subfields within astronomy.
Yeah, we're just having a bit of the network is just tekering for a second. I think it wants to disrupt our conversation. But perhaps the other sort of topic, whilst we have you on the line, there's been sort of a great mobilization and a great push to get more women within STEM. And obviously, talking to the likes of yourself, who's just made history as the first PhD graduate in astrophysics from the University of Pretoria. It's very important to highlight that you are the walking example of what people consistently talk about, that women need to take up, take a position within STEM. They need to have their voices heard within STEM and take an interest within STEM, because ultimately it's going to lead to more Dr. Carissas.
I think it's very important for each individual to choose the direction that they find fascinating and that they're able to pursue.
Dr. Carissa Button, thank you so much for the time, and congratulations to you once again. She becomes the first PhD graduate, the first doctor of astrophysics from the University of Pretoria. And of course, it is indeed a very, very big deal. And that is bringing us closer and closer to the end of the show. In our last few moments, I just got a message from the corner of my eye. I see it. It says, "Hey, Bridget, your guest reminds me of Big Bang Theory. She's made me so proud. Congrats." And it comes from Anon, but looking from the avatar, quite the glamazon Anon, who sent that particular message. Me too. I also got the Big Bang Theory sort of vibe from the good doctor, doing incredible work there and chuckling away at my limited understanding of astrophysics and trying her best to, help us sort of get to grips with what exactly her focus point for her PhD was. But incredible work there, and I'm sure will have a resounding impact in the future in the world of astrophysics and, of course, astrology. 5 minutes to go before the end of the show. Ashraf Ghada is coming through 3 until 6 o'clock with the National Pulse. Lots on the agenda over there. Lots by way of conversation to be had. And as you heard, the big burning question today is, how are you going to vote? Not who are you going to vote for, but how. What essentially is impacting who you ultimately choose to vote for. I will tell you this. This past weekend, I was catching up in between work. I was catching up with some news outlets. I'd missed, obviously, we can't catch everything in real time. So I went back to YouTube and watched some extended interviews. Some of the 24-hour news channels are running long format interviews with respective political parties, just unpacking some issues and unpacking some of the content of their policies and their manifestos. And it's refreshing to also hear political parties now speak in us common man language so that we understand these big global concepts that they spew out when they, standing on podiums or in discourse and debate with themselves. And I heard one particularly speak to the issue of land distribution being reflective of the demographics of this country. And I thought to myself, well, that's a point I've never heard anybody speak on when they speak about land redistribution, when they speak about the Ingonyama Trust. It's always very much from a technical perspective, who owns and why they own and whose hands is it on. But it was interesting to hear the perspective that was refreshing to say, well, if we are to interrogate it even further, it's disproportionately representative, because the biggest demographic, i.e. women, in particular black women, don't have access to land in this country. So if I'm to answer Ashraf's question, how are you going to vote? So bona pambili on the 29th of May. That's it from myself and my team. Inshallah, God willing, we thank you so much that you chose to be with us. We'll get to see you tomorrow.
SAFM, playing the music you want to hear.
File mohlankana pelo ante pisa lerato haradi pula le difefo ante pisa lerato tese nako isekai mohlankana raile moritana meme puo isekai matsale o laile modisana bona heke hai bula khomoditwa hadi khutle bona heke hai bula khomoditwa